move on to our last topic this evening.
Yeah,
We're talking about Photoshop for the
yeah,
iPad. This came out not too long ago, like a month or so ago, or has it been?
yeah. It just recently came out right at Photoshop Max, which they did right after PPE, and released a whole bunch of different stuff.
Now you've been using this for a while, I presume, right?
Yeah, I got to test it, and I was under an NDA, which I couldn't discuss what I played with and what I saw for a while. But now that it's out in the open, I can talk about Photoshop for iPad, which is wonderful. And there's a lot of mixed reactions on this, and I guess we're going to discuss that, aren't we?
I guess so. I mean, I've only honestly I started using it in earnest this weekend, so I haven't had a ton of experience. But even playing around with
Hmm.
it a little bit, even playing around with Lightroom, I play around more with Lightroom.
Yeah.
That's like desktop. I mean, they're both desktop class, but again, like jumping into the Lightroom on the iPad, very easy to, do my editing, do my selects and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So I can definitely see the allure of having that on the iPad and capability. Again, it looks like this is full Photoshop, no compromises from my perspective. So again, I really need to spend some more time, but from the outset, I'm looks good to me. What do you think about it?
It's well, Lightroom's been out for a little while, and they've been polishing it up and polishing it up, and it works really well on the iPad, and it gives you a kind of cool mobile workflow, and especially when it's combined with Creative Cloud and being able to put things up immediately to the cloud servers and go home, and it's synced with your account, and so anything you do there is already synced to your desktop, and everything's kind of there. Photoshop was just released, and it was
Right.
something that's been promised for a long time, and people have been waiting for. And with that, everybody has expectations. It's like, when's Sony going to release the A7, S3? Everybody wants it. Sony hasn't promised it, but everybody has this expectation that it's going to be delivered, and it will be. But it's just like Photoshop. So once it comes out, it's what they've delivered is something that is pretty impressive, and it is something that has been needed, and it's an incredible program. But with that, they've pretty much rewritten Photoshop to be used on an iPad, which is a very different experience. With it's not a desktop. It doesn't have a mouse. It has pinch and zoom and touch, tactile and stuff like that. So they really kind of took that into consideration. And with that said, everything is not in the program yet. And some people are like, well, why isn't this there? Then well, they've recreated a program that's going to be fine tuned everything. And Photoshop has been very transparent about it. Very saying this is what we're going to deliver in 2019. This is what's coming to it in 2020. The refined edge isn't there yet. That's something they say they're going to deliver in 2020. Curves and adjustment layers option, that's something they're bringing to it. And they're already testing this out and working on it. And this takes a long time to develop into something that works on an iPad. Brush sensitivity and rotating canvas is coming to it. Lightroom integrations coming to it. So that's all coming the next year. And so as time goes by, this is going to be a more and more powerful tool. And I found myself a lot of times when I don't want to carry a laptop or anything like that when I'm traveling and I need to do quick edits. Now I'll just bring my iPad and I can quickly put the photos into it, do a culling through Lightroom, put it into Photoshop, and deliver it to a client very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Do I like working on desktop more? I just like the retail space
Mm-hmm.
and working with my Wacom and my mouse and stuff like that. But when I'm just going on the fly, the iPad is really a great, powerful tool.
And it works really well with the Apple Pencil, right?
It does. It does.
Okay. Now you went down to New Orleans, and we talked about this last week briefly because you
Hmm.
were obviously on the iPad for the show. Did you
Yep.
end up
Yep.
using the iPad at any point in New Orleans while you were down there for photo editing?
To quickly look at the photos, yes. But when I'm doing it depends on the type of shoot I am on. If it's an event shoot that doesn't require much retouching and stuff like that, then I'll usually I can do something quick on an iPad and get that out and be happy with
Right.
that. If I'm shooting models, which is a higher retouch factor and post production and what I do, I tend to. I'll do a quick edit on my iPad just to see what it's going to look like, but that won't be the one that'll go out. I'll wait to go back and cull it through my main system and do a lot of retouching through the main big system.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you ever use the iPad as sort of like you link it with your camera and then sort of almost like a tethering? Like, is that even
Sure.
possible? Can you tether your?
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. You can immediately look at and see what you're shooting. Uh, it's it's getting better and better.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all kinds of new stuff from Cam Ranger just came out with their version 2 of the Cam Ranger, which I might get, which you put on your camera and it immediately sends it to the iPad. So literally you could call an editor or hand it off to a client and they see immediately what's coming in.
Yeah.
And you can remotely shoot with it and do stacking and all kinds of wonderful stuff
Mm-hmm.
with the Cam Ranger 2 on your camera. And that makes the iPad a really, really great tool. And the iPad for me has just been sort of like the kind of everything. So like, I go to the airport, I, fire off some emails, I get on the plane, with the iPad and I watch some Netflix that I've downloaded. Then I get to the, hotel and, it becomes, an alarm clock as well as my TV. And, it's just an all in one kind of wonder. It just, it's the one thing if you're going to grab that really works well.
Yeah, 100% I agree. I've taken it with me as my sole computer for like vacation and whatnot, and I found it to be very useful. Although limited if you've got a small hard drive or small. If you went with one of the smaller options, I've got the 64 gigabyte here, and I think I've got about 20 gigabytes left. So obviously, what I want to do with the iPad is more video editing specific. I want to use LumaFusion and whatnot, and I find I'm constrained by obviously that hard drive to really do what I want to do. Right. I'm guessing you probably got the 1 terabyte model iPad, right?
It was either the 512 or the 1 terabyte. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, that's perfect for photo.
The one way Apple always gets you is that extra memory just costs so much, and they big price gouge on it. I mean, from the new MacBook 16, it's like if you were to put in like I think it goes up to like 6 terabytes or something like that.
8 terabytes
adds another $3,000 I mean, it's kind of ridiculous.
The only thing I've considered buying is like the Narbox. Have you heard of that? Yes,
I have. I've played with it. I've played with the Narbox too. I have mixed feelings on it. I found it not to be what I wanted it to be, and I think it was weird because I was asking them, and like the SD card slot on it, when I put my card into it, it transferred actually rather slowly. Mm-hmm. Like, well, the port on it, if you use a card, reader into the port, is faster. I'm like, well, why wouldn't you make the card? It doesn't make sense. And in the actual software you're using, there's like 2 different softwares that sort of do the same thing, but they don't do the same thing. It's just it's not there yet for an experience that, for me, it's like if I transfer it into my iPad, it's like, bam, it's quick and I can see them instantly. I wasn't getting that same kind of experience. And the Narbox, I think, was supposed to give you an experience plus a great backup on the road, and I just found it not quite what I wanted.
Yeah, I've only considered it because it does link with LumaFusion. So if you're trying to get extra hard drive space, you can use a Narbox with your iPad and LumaFusion, and that's one way to get there. So
there are a lot of great positives of the Narbox, and I think that that it's only going to get better. But right now, it didn't suit me.
Yeah. So obviously, they've got a pretty close full-featured version of Photoshop on the iPad. Are they working on Illustrator? Are they working on Premiere Pro? Do you know anything about any other programs within the Adobe hierarchy? Because I know they've got their they've got their Rush and they've got their other sort of stuff. But,
Rush is the more mobile one that actually works pretty well, especially on the fly. If you haven't played with Rush, it's actually pretty impressive. Right. And that's the one that's really kind of geared to iPad and stuff like that. There are some other stuff in the works, and I can't talk about stuff that I.
Those darn NDAs.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll have to.
But it was a nice try.
Yeah. Well, I honestly did not know. So that's fine. All right. Well, I'll try and prime you with some alcohol. Maybe I'll see you in person.
But I mean, they've done some great stuff with the Fresco came out and really they've impressed that. That's a really incredible program with its brushes and what it does in its brushes in Fresco is unbelievable. I never thought I would even want to use that program, but after seeing what all the brushes do and from watercolor to this other stuff, it's really cool and fun to play with. So I would play with that a little bit.
Do they have Photoshop for Android yet, or is that something? You probably can't even talk about it, but I wonder if that's something that they're going to. I doubt it, but
that I can say they are working.
They are working on that. Okay, good.
Yeah.
For all the massive, huge tablets on the Android side, the huge Android tablet market that exists out there. So okay, cool. Well, I will dig into this more.
That is in the works.
That's good. I'm going to dig into this more. And just see if this might be something. Because, again, I do a lot of work on the road. And
Yeah.
I've been considering the new iMac, or I'm sorry, the new MacBook Pro. It's a very impressive machine.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, I
Mm-hmm.
see people and their experiences are just magical. I will say the one reason or thing I would hold out for maybe next year's model, because it's only going to get better from here. And now that they've fixed the keyboard and whatnot, and the screen
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
whatnot, I'd say the webcam, 720p on a pro
Yeah.
machine, you
My
know.
only feeling with the MacBook is it seems. I mean, it's a polished machine. It looks great. If you're in the Mac ecosystem, it's nice. But you look at some of these other computers, like if you look at Razer or if you look at what Dell's putting out, you get a far superior computer for either the same price or
Mm,
less. And you can also change out like SSDs, and they're not soldered to the board. And you can do some change
yeah,
outs that once you buy a Mac, and if you don't spec it out, it is what it is for its life,
right.
and you're not changing out anything. Um, and like I would rather have a full spec Razer than a full spec Mac. That the graphic cards will blow it away. That be able to change SSDs and stuff like that. It's just a farly superior computer for, especially for video editing and stuff like that. So I think Mac has sort of lost its placement. And you have these old photographers and advertising people that are hanging on to MacBook because it's what they know and stuff like that, and they believe, oh well, you can't get viruses or running on all that kind of ridiculous kind of stuff now. But there's just better stuff, and people that really have migrated from Mac to PC on because of for that reason.
Yeah, I won't disagree with you. I mean, I've got a PC in front of me right now, and it's works perfectly fine. I will say though, I've had such a horrible experience with laptops in the PC realm, and I found the experience to be with the MacBook just perfect, for the most part.
But most of the time, the people that have problems with PC, they've either bought it through Best Buy or they've bought it through, they've bought a pre-configured laptop and not really done the research on buying it. It's unfortunately Mac has one, kind of unit where, just like an Android phone or the experience you have from a Motorola to a Samsung Android device is very, very different. So you have to buy the right laptop, and that takes research or asking friends and stuff like that. If you don't, you're gonna have a bad experience if you just buy a bad subpar PC
Hmm.
laptop. If you buy a good one, you're gonna have a very good experience. And there's lots of great options out there and lots of bad options out there. So it takes some due diligence on the user's part to make sure that they're getting the good one, and not just because that was a great price and it looks like it has all the specs I want, and not really understanding what makes a good laptop.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, people can look for new laptops coming up this Black Friday holiday. Of course, this
Yeah.
is the episode before Thanksgiving. We've talked all kinds of stuff like that. You're gonna be. I think we already talked about. You're not gonna. None of the Black Friday sales really intrigue you, and I don't blame you because they seem to have gone downhill for the last decade or so.
It seems more like a bait and switch kind of thing now. Like it's like, oh, we're gonna loop them in and get them
Oh,
with
well, that's
this,
always
kind
doorbusters
of
or
fake
bait and
idea.
switch.
And it's
Yeah.
like it's just I've never thought they were great. I've been more impressed with Cyber Monday than and I tend to enjoy shopping
Hmm.
online and not fighting the Walmart crowds.
Yeah, I'll probably pick up maybe another hard drive. They've got some 12
Mm,
terabyte, 14 terabyte externals, so I might pick up one of those. Can never get enough hard drive space. Beyond
yeah,
that, I don't really need anything. You know,
yeah, yeah.
um, if there's some awesome deal, but they really aren't. I mean, nowadays it's like you've got Amazon Prime Day, you've got sales all the time, so it's like
Yeah.
nobody, there really isn't that same sort of putting everything in 1 year type thing. So I will probably get some video
Yep.
games. I always get video games,
Yeah, there you go.
and then
There
they
you go.
get put into a drawer, and I never play them
That makes sense.
because
That
I'm a
makes
parent.
sense. Yep.
But anyways, I think we're going to close out this week's show.
There we go.
Do have to do some notes here for the audience. If you listened to the show last week, you may have noticed, or depending on how you watch or listen to the show, you may have noticed a little bit of different stuff with our release schedule. So I just want to go over that really quick. Really should have done this at the head of the show, but no big deal. So as you all know, we have a Patreon. I've mentioned that once or twice, I think. But
Yeah.
anyways, if you put $1 towards our Patreon, you get all of our content early. And that used to be just extraneous content such as reviews or interviews or things that were outside the podcast, we would put that up early. But going forward, at least with this season, what I'm going to be doing is putting the podcast onto our Patreon early. So, if you're a casual viewer or if you watch the show live, you'll still be able to watch the show live on Mondays. But after the show is done, it'll be taken down off of Facebook, and then it'll be parsed out over the course of the week. So you can see the show in parts, part 1, 2, and 3. And I think that's honestly a more easier way to enjoy the show, because a lot of people may not have the time to watch the entire hour-long show, and they may just want to watch the parts that are relevant to what the topic is that they want to hear more about. So I think it makes the show a little bit more digestible and sort of easier to share and interact with. But we're going to be releasing the episode in parts over the course of the week. But the Patreon viewers will get the show in its entirety the next day, on Tuesday. I'll be submitting that and uploading it to our Patreon account. So if you want to get the full show early in audio and video forms, then you have to be a Patreon. You have to bid it, put at least $1 a month.
If you're a binge watcher.
Yeah, that's right.
If you're a binge watcher, like most Netflix watchers are, you can binge watch the whole episode.
There you go. That's right. So if you want the whole Monty right there and then, become a patron. If not, you can watch the episode in parts. It'll be uploaded to YouTube in parts and then shared on our Facebook page. And then on the Saturday, right now, that's kind of the day I'm still mobile and still fluid on that. But Saturday is when I'm publishing the show in its entirety in both photo or audio and video format. So if you listen to us on a podcatcher like Podcast Addict or iTunes or whatnot, that's when you'll hear the audio version update. That's when that'll be available. So look for that on the weekend. So it will eventually be coming out. But again, if you want to get that early, in addition to all the content we create, head on over to our Patreon page. So
yeah,
there we go. Plug for the Patreon. Beyond that, of course, head on over to aroundthelens.com to see show notes and also all previous episodes of the show and everything else we're doing. Travis, anything else you want to throw us out with before we head on out?
No, as always, we depend on you guys as viewers and to respond back to us. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you think we should be doing in terms of further content. And we'd like to carry on the conversation after the show. So if you have questions or you want to carry on the conversation, please reach out to us. And we're going to be doing our gift ideas. I think we should do a little gift ideas. People to presents to get photographers that aren't cameras.
Great idea, and that will be coming up here in one of the next shows, I promise. So just hold off. I was working on a blog post for the website to let people know what Black Friday deals are around. I just haven't had a chance to stop everything else I'm doing and focus on that. But I will publish something before Black Friday, I promise.
Nice.
And then we will do our Christmas special. And what to buy, gift buying stuff, probably right after that.
I like it.
Let's one holiday at a time, Travis. One holiday at a time.
You got to start the shopping right away, though.
Right?
Man.
You're playing the Christmas.
You miss it. Then suddenly, already next week they're going to be, Halloween decorations back up.
I know. All right. Well, that's been our show for this week. Again, just a cozy show, two guys talking about stuff. But next week we should have. Let me see who's on the docket for next week, just so
we got some good stuff coming up down the line.
Absolutely,
some good guests, and sometimes it's fun just to go back to the roots, just us talking.
Yeah, just the boys.
It's always nice to have the guests. Yep.
But I know, of course, Evelyn is in the West Coast right now, so she tried to make it, but again. I don't blame her. It's pretty early over there, and then our guest unfortunately had some stuff come up that he had to take care of, and
life gets in the way.
Ron is just a wild card. But next week, actually, I'm glad I brought this up because next week is a little bit different, and I don't know if this will affect you, Travis, or any of the other hosts, but the show will be at 7:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so I believe that's 10:30 a.m. your time, and it's extremely early in the morning my time or late at night, however you want to look at that.
So we'll go this way. If it was 7:30 my time, it would have affected it 10:30. That's music to my ears.
Perfect. All right, great. Well, so we know Travis will be there. But we're going to have Meg Handler and Michael Shaw, two awesome guests, will be on talk about their work. So look out for that. More to follow. We'll probably do a little feature on them and who they are, so you know before the show. So again, that'll be on December 2nd. So go ahead and put that in your schedule. Put that in your planner now, and go check out that show. All right. Well, I think that's it for this week. Thank you, Travis, for hanging out. Have fun at the holidays. Eat some turkey. Watch some football. Be safe. Stay off the road if you can help it. And I will see you next week.
Sounds good. Happy
Happy
holidays, everyone.
holidays, everybody. For Travis Keys, I'm David J. Murphy. This has been Around the Lens, episode 202, and we are out.
Thanks for listening to Around the Lens. We hope you enjoyed the show. To continue the conversation, head on over to one of our social media outlets such as Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter. To support the show financially, consider donating to us via Patreon. For show notes from this week's episode and links to everything else we talked about, just go to our website, aroundthelens.com. Finally, if you or someone you know might be a good guest for the show, get in touch with us via email at info@aroundthelens.com.